I do write down what is good and
Oh,
gratitude. I
nice. Yeah.
do that when I'm feeling sad.
Hmm.
But actually, I should do it far more throughout when things are great. But
Yeah.
when things are really tricky, I will
Yeah.
go down to the basic of basics. Like, I woke up in a clean bed. I've had
Oh,
a hot
nice.
coffee.
Yeah, yeah,
My
yeah.
my child smiled at me. And actually, that
Beautiful.
gratitude, I think when you're really tuned into gratitude, what comes from it is like amazing.
Hi, I'm Nunn, and this is the mess we're in, i.e., life. Because life is, in fact, one big mess that we are all trying to make sense of and navigate our way through. The universe itself is a vast expanse of unorganised chaos. Stars are exploding all over the place, which makes me feel a sense of ease. I want to enable conversations that allow us to all embrace our mess at every level, or at least feel open and comfortable talking about it. I hope you enjoy our ramblings. This week's guest is the fabulous Kelly Ford. Kelly is a stand-up comedian, actor, and broadcaster. She has previously hosted her podcasts, The Motherless and The Everything Project. She's been seen on E4 and BBC Three and is currently gigging all around the UK. Longlisted for Channel 4's Sean Lock Award in 2024, she is a funny women one to watch. She is wonderfully open, talented, down to earth, and suitably messy. Enjoy. Welcome. Hello, Kelly.
Hello, nice to see you.
Hello, Kelly Ford, the one and only. It is lovely to see you too. Thank you for joining the
My
Mess We
pleasure.
Are In podcast. You are my inaugural guest. Is that what you say? Inaugural first
Yeah,
guest.
I think that's right. I think that's right. And what a pleasure and what a delight to see you and to
Ah,
be doing this inaugural show. Is that what you say?
inaugural show of the mess we are in. So my aim with this podcast is to talk about our messy selves, the mess that we are in as humans in life, because life actually is chaos. It is one big mess, in my opinion. And we are just here as humans trying to make sense of it all and do our best in amongst all of this mess, because there is no such thing as perfect, I don't believe. Anyone that says there is weird. I
Yeah,
don't get it. And I just think that we need to find our own ways, our own unique ways to thrive within this disorder and within the mess that we find ourselves in.
love it.
Love it. So do you know what else I love? I love a good old dictionary definition. And I've been looking a little bit into the etymology of mess, right? So mess itself, firstly, it used to refer to food. It used to be the original sense, it was drawn from the Latin verb mittere, meaning to send, and then or the modern French of mettre, to be a course of a meal put on the table. So it would seem that originally mess came from the references to food. What do you
Yeah,
think of
I
that,
guess when you
Kelly?
think about camping, you have the mess tin, don't you? When the soldiers had like mess tins.
Yeah.
So
And you could refer to like sitting in a mess, or isn't there a mess like sitting at a table in the army? Do they not sit in a
yeah,
mess?
they're covered in mess, those guys.
Weird, right? They are covered in mess. And so and mess, right, here's a dictionary definition, okay? So a mess is often referred to as an unappetizing, unpalatable, or disgusting dish or concoction. Disgusting dish or concoction. What do you think is the messiest food that you eat?
I have to say that description, there's been a few of those round my way. I tell you what, absolutely despicable concoctions being thrown onto the table on 7 o'clock on a Wednesday night. The
By you
messiest,
or by your children?
I mean, first of all, by me, the concoctions by me, and then what they leave afterwards is nothing short of a Jackson Pollock. So, which I think is pure mess, like it's Okay, messiest food. It
Yeah.
has to be, doesn't it, like a pasta vongole where you actually have to get into the clams and then you've got the
Yes.
pasta sauce and you're trying to
Seafood.
navigate.
Yeah. Linguine mariniere, right? The seafood pasta, messy, disgusting pasta with shells in it and full prawns that you have to um,
Debone. Yeah, I'd say prawns are quite
shell.
messy, actually. Anything
Prawns
that
are
you
messy.
kind of,
If they come with shells on,
yeah,
prawns are really messy.
anything that you have to derobe at the
Derobe.
table,
Yeah.
I think
Or yeah, spaghetti. Spaghetti can get messy around the mouth. I don't usually like lots of.
it's quite messy, but I'm also quite fussy about
Mm,
the old with the spoon, using your spoon to
yes.
and then getting it in. Whereas
That makes it tidier, doesn't it?
I just don't like seeing. I'm not very good with any mastication. Um, I
No
don't
chewing.
I don't like
Too loud?
hearing. I don't like seeing. If I could have my way, I would just dine solo with the
But you
atmosphere of everyone there and the feeling of community, but not actually watching anyone eat.
Yeah, fair. That's a pipe dream though, surely, right? In our lives.
Yeah,
In lives with I'm like we're both mums here. We both have families, we both have children. And I mean kids eat messy. My daughter still loves to eat with her hands. She's 7 and yet she loves to just pick up the food. She picks up the cheese, she picks up the pasta. I'm like, that is messy to me. How do you feel about that? How do you feel about children eating?
I feel like it's super messy, and I am really like I'm quite liberal in many ways, Liv. But when it comes to table manners, I am
Yeah.
meticulous, and I don't know why or what that is, with my upbringing. But every day, I say the same things. Please close your mouth when you're eating.
Mm-hmm.
Put both bottom cheeks on your chair.
Mm-hmm. Eat with cutlery.
Eat with cutlery. Like it's all for me. Like it's like little acts of self respect, though. These
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
things, and they all
Yeah.
build up, don't they? So actually, um, I can't stand seeing like mouths open. I find it really upsetting.
How do you feel about crumbs when crumbs go everywhere though? Like if think, and on the table while you're eating, if there's backsplashes or crumbs everywhere, is that messy? Is that a hard no? Is that too much? What do you
I
do?
can't handle any of it. I really, it's like there is actually a name for it because I can't also listen to people eat. And if you've got a clicky jaw, oh my god, I've
Oh, yeah.
a clicky jaw. I think I don't know if that's not got anything to do with mess, but I'm just talking about the table and like noise and like and yeah, they are messy kids. Gonna just not disclose her name. I'll just call her Tab. But like, I muck out her room. It is like mucking out a horse's room. It's like get your spade, get the knickers off the
Really?
floor. Yeah, the mess is like I'm constantly surrounded by piles of miscellaneous items that include like a puzzle piece,
I
a
love the
milk
word
bottle top,
miscellaneous.
a, a pair of knickers that don't belong to me, one sock. I mean, I have a bag like this, a
Yeah.
sack. So I'm going to use an analogy of sack of about 500 single socks. I just don't know where they've all gone. So I'm always in my mind, I'm always trying to contain the mess. Like my day is like constantly sorting, but then these piles just keep appearing, and it's like I'm just in like an Alice in Wonderland of like endless miscellaneous.
So because this was going to be my next question. What is the mess level like in your household, and what can be bearable? What is classed as, and does it vary from room to room? And what's your mess level standards compared comparatively to your kids? I mean, I guess it's really hard with kids, isn't it? We've got to give them some leeway, but what is tolerable? Like kids' toy mess you just mentioned there. Is there, full floor covered, can't deal with it, Lego everywhere, can't bear? Or is that because, I've looked at some stuff, I've looked at some things online about, pictures of kids that have been bribed with, pocket money and all sorts of things to try and learn how to tidy up. But some of the pictures, it's been Daily Mail vibes, let's be honest. But, pictures of mountains of toys, like, and you can't actually move. You can't move because of the mess. What's it like in your house?
Okay, I'm going to take you from the bottom up.
Yeah.
Okay, I have a basement,
Hmm.
and I would say that is the equivalent of like landfill. Okay, that is like that. It terrifies me when I open that door. What's going to be in there?
What lies behind there? That's like the trap door.
Who's it? What? How? Where has this stuff come from? So much
Where the
stuff.
bodies are buried. Okay.
Um, and then we go up, and I think I'm very good at kind of hiding it
Yeah.
behind doors and in drawers.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But like I will sort out an area, and
Hmm.
then within 6 weeks, I've stuffed all the things back in it,
Yeah.
and then I'll do a big sort out, and then it will just be rammed with stuff in no time.
Hmm.
So with the kids, I have a lot of like Hessian bags or wicker baskets.
Okay, nice. So that's organized mess. That's good. That's clutter in a bag.
So there's a lot of that going on
Yeah.
for kids. Like yesterday, I did the little one's room, and then I just put all like Paw Patrol in one basket, and the other basket, all the Build-A-Bear clothes, and then under her bed is just this drawer, which is just full of shit. And actually, I should just, but a little bit of the old basket action just gives me a sense of calm.
That's nice. Do they put the stuff away? Because what I experience, what I'm challenged by is, unfortunately, we live in clutter on surface land. Like, I get these baskets, I get the organizers, I get the pencil cases, and my daughter just loves, there's just these areas where she says it's organized. She's like, no, I tidied up. And I'm like, no, you put 8 different LOL dolls in an array, like in that area of your desk. And then on the other side of your desk, you put 18 pencils. And on the other, and at the back, you've put 500 sheets of paper folded up. And she's like, this is organized. I'm like, I can't deal with it. But I put it away and it just all comes out again. Do your kids put it
Yeah,
away in
it's
the organizer?
constant. It's constant. And you've got to you want them to be creative and able to
Yeah.
just like make stuff, like this weekend they've been making these mystery bags, which are
Mm.
kind of inside she's made out phones and chargers and battery packs out of paper, and it's all
Mm.
very charming. But yeah, there's a balance between wanting to enable great creativity, but not in an environment which looks like there's been a burglary, which I feel like I walk from room to room. My daddy always said something, which is always leave
Mhm.
a room nicer than you found it. I have
Okay.
been preaching that to the cellmates here. They're not into that. And I
Do
just
you
think,
think, yeah, go
always
on.
leave a room just a little nicer. Plump a
Nicer than you
cushion,
found it.
wipe
I like that
wipe a
motto.
surface, because I just find I go from room to room and go, oh my, what has happened in here?
Yeah. Do
And
you think order is passed down? Do you think like we inherit a sense of order and tidying skills from our parents? Do you think that gets passed down?
yeah, I think, yeah. And I think on one side I had someone who's quite sort of more is more is more, and the other side he's quite sort of tidy, choleric, and clean. But what about you? Are you organised?
Well, I think I inherited a dual sense of hide the clutter and try and be organized but fail. Like, I honestly, I would say I guess I like organized mess. I err on the side of, if it looks pretty, put it out, but put it in some sort of order. I hate things to be visibly dirty. Like, I draw the line at, if there are loads of crumbs on the floor or if there's splodges of mud up the stairs, like, I have to tidy that shit straight away. Like, I can't, if it's really sort of visibly unclean, then I start to feel uncomfortable. But scraps of paper, loads of cards, I'm okay with that feeling a little bit, all over the shop, let's say. But I think I hit a limit when there's sometimes I'll be like, okay, this is too much and I need to move everything. And I really, really like having I like that sort of tidy workspace, tidy mind. So I think like it really, really helps if I'm going to sit down and do something creative or writing or something like that. I have to have clear space, clear surfaces. I've got to look around me and feel like there is calm and order. Do you find that when you're needing to write or?
I am that guy. I am. And do you know what? I think if I didn't have children, I would be the kind of potentially, I think I'd be super minimalist. I love stuff though. And I think
Yeah.
growing up with a couple of antique dealers as parents, we always
Oh,
had
really?
things.
Were they? Oh, that must have
Yeah,
been nice stuff. Oh, magpie. See, like I
things.
was a bit of a magpie, and my daughter even calls herself a magpie. She loves little, like beautiful things, antique things, vintage things.
Cute.
That's not mess, is it? No.
It is though, if you've got a lot of it and it just piles up and it's, like I'm looking over there and there's a hook. There's 3 hooks. See that, right? And on there, normally it just contains necklaces, but today it's got a bum bag, a giant umbrella, a bike clock, a cap, and it's just covered in shit. And then I look up to, my vanity unit, and it
Mm.
just looks like a 3-year-old just being like rehearsing her drag queen performance. So I think I think I'm messy, but
Do
I'm
you?
always organized. Like if you came into my house, you would
Mm.
never think she was messy because it's like it's what's behind the cupboards. Like I'll do very well. I think I just go in fits and starts of like all the clothes are color coded.
Is it a facade, Kelly? Is it a facade? Are you just maintaining a permanent facade, darling?
Well, maybe there is something amongst that, but I think my intention is one of order. But then I think if you have a 3-year-old in your house, that thing of like constantly plumping the cushions, or, I've done the dishwasher 3 times today, amongst that, your time to actually do that drawer. I think there's something to be said for like one thing a day. So, like your liquor drawer, or like, your paperwork, just one thing a day. But I just find like it's like an avalanche of shite like to
Are
deal
you a
with.
clear as you go? Do you like to clear as you go, or can you deal with letting everything happen all day and then clearing it all up at the end?
Well, it always has to be as you go. But
Yeah, me too.
there are times when I have a massive pile of clean clothes that are on the bed that I need to sort for everyone, and they get put on the floor at the end of the day. And then the next morning, they get put back on the bed and folded into
Yeah.
relevant piles, and then they might not be distributed. So then they might then go back on the floor the next night.
Okay. You know what though, this is again where I think we have to, going back to striking that balance of like looking at life and thinking what is important and what is not important. And is everyone living like this to some degree? Yes, of course they are. It's just what are the personal degrees that we can tolerate and stand differs for everybody, I guess. And when I think when mess starts to affect your mind, that's probably when you have to go, right. I need to deal with this. I need to affect this physical mess in front of me so that it doesn't impact my mind too much. Because my next thoughts are around the messes of our minds. Because not only is there physical mess around us all, but I like to get into the nitty gritty of what goes on in our heads. How do you, yeah, if you're ever in a mess in your mind, as we get into again as humans, like, what does that feel like? And how do you organize your mind? How do you help yourself? Any tips and tools?
Okay, so I have a tendency to overthink.
Yeah.
Um,
Welcome to my world.
so I'd say my main areas of concern with my mind getting messy is when I've been overthinking. And
Yeah.
sometimes I'll overthink to the point where I've misconstrued a tiny thing and I've written a whole incredible dialogue around it.
Yeah.
So, and then that's when I
Written it in
guess
your head or written it down? Do you write it down?
in
Yeah,
my head,
written
and
it in
then
your head.
I guess that's when the wonders of anxiety will kind of crop up, and then those questions then lead to low mood. Da 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 da. So when I get that going on, in the last 2 years, I believe that I have this imaginary toolkit, and it's like a bag, and in it are things that I know will help me when I get into that place. I work out 5 times a week. So this is my kind of, I think about foundation of a house, and yeah, I've lost quite a lot of weight doing it and
That's
just feel
mega. Congrats to
fantastic.
you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So yeah, I have little targets around that every week, and this is part of like my mental health kind of plan. So I always run minimum 10K a week, cycle at least 25 to 30K a week, and do 2 to 3 strength training sessions a week. That is non-negotiable. That is it has to happen. Even being ill this week, the day after I was supposed to do your podcast, I got up at 6:30, wrapped myself up warm, and went and did a 16K cycle at 6 a.m. because seeing that sunrise, nature immersion, physical movement, I think, you're bringing up stuff from your chest. Anyway, the whole thing about fitness and endorphins and giving your mind space to think, I think nature, however you can, if you can exercise in nature, we get so much from nature, and we all kind of forget that bit. And I think in my toolkit, it's all stuff that's very yin led, because I feel we're all on all the time, our phones, life, kids, parties, husbands, work, money, stress. So everything in my toolkit I see as yin. So it's
Nice.
fitness,
Yeah.
it's sleep.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
my, I mean, how did it take me to turn 44 that sleep is like so important? I've got a 3-year-old that gets in my bed every night, so
Yeah.
I have to, after this, I'll watch something. I'll watch a bit of telly for half an hour, and I'll be going to
Mm.
bed. If I'm not gigging, I am in bed before 9 o'clock. It's like
Yeah.
that is a super, super.
That's so good to hear. I'm so on that level. Like I've made a rule recently, and it stops my mind from getting too messy. Also, to try, and I've struggled with sleep over the years and insomnia, but I'm now like the rule is 10 o'clock bedtime. Like I have to be in bed by 10. It's just so simple yet so effective to just help manage the mind, isn't it?
And it's saying it's it's sleep hygiene, isn't it? It's that thing of saying to yourself, at 10 o'clock I'm in bed. It's making a choice to read a nice book. I always put my phone downstairs every night, and I think that's a power move.
Mhm.
Also, in my imaginary toolkit are is actually a few things like Oprah, Mel
Mm.
Robbins, and
Okay.
RuPaul. They're
Nice.
there. RuPaul is my spirit guide, and I truly believe that everything they have to say about the world, I just really embrace.
Love that. RuPaul, big tip.
Big tip. Okay, another thing is I've been doing a lot of hot and cold stuff recently, because I think immunity seasons. So I've been going to the sauna once a week and doing cold water under the head.
Oh, yeah. I've had a lot of people even just tell me doing that in the shower. Like when you have a shower, just to get the last 60 seconds is freezing cold. That's meant to be so good, isn't it? That will remove all the cobwebs and mess from the mind, cleanse
You
it.
can't think about anything else apart from that.
Yeah.
Next year, I'd like to really embrace stuff around breath work. I think that's really interesting.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
but I also do think you, sometimes when your head is like that,
Yeah.
I'm I have an amazing village of people, and I
Yeah.
can say I have, to my dear family and friends, or my very patient husband, like
Yeah.
I'm really suffering, and I'm I've never I've never been medicated for any mental health.
Yeah.
Looking back, I probably should have at points.
Hmm.
But I think actually, I think also leaning into things where if you are feeling like it's too much, it's okay to speak to someone. I've done a lot of CBT. I've done like
Yeah.
3 courses of CBT. Me and my
Yeah.
husband have done like couples therapy.
Yeah.
And, I am not afraid to also use those tips. So quite often when I'm in
Yeah.
that overthinking space, I'll go, well, what's the evidence, Kelly?
Yeah.
Question it. And actually
Yeah, you
that,
have to question your thoughts, exactly, like rationalize it with yourself. I do that often now. I'm like, okay, just stop, Liv, because I do. I really have that overthink tendency as well. It's just stop, noticing, take a breath, like look around you, get back to ground, like ground yourself, and then say, I actually sometimes just talk all the way through the scenario though. It's like, okay, and if you end up going, what's the worst that could happen? Like, what's genuinely the worst that could happen in this situation? And talk all the way through it and think about how you would tackle it.
yeah, that's good.
And yeah, and I love what you're saying about sharing, because I think
Mm.
so often we can get really messy in our minds because
Yeah.
we're not sharing what's going on in there. And
Mhm.
some people suffer in silence a lot, and then that will lead you into a pickle, and you're bound to, get lost and torn up in your own head if you're not sharing it with anybody. So yeah, big advocate. Well done for just speaking up on the being honest and open about the therapy and all that sort of thing.
I think
Do you?
also like nothing is as bad as you think it is.
Mm, mm-hmm.
And actually, it's okay. I think I've also started to notice through the month that the week before my period, my brain is like going triple time. So I'm now really.
Is that our age? Is that because we are hitting our mid 40s? And honestly, I've never felt it so like intensely before. I was aware of my cycle to an extent, but now, is it our age? Is it like, yeah, periods? They are a messy point in the life, in the month rather, and in life. And they can be on both counts. I mean, sometimes the leaking is real.
Yeah, the
That is a
leaking.
mess.
I think just like another thing in my toolkit is when things are going a bit weird or a bit shit, um, I do write down what is good, gratitude. I do that. I tend to do it when things are really shit and when I'm feeling sad. But actually I should do it far more throughout when things are great. But when things are really tricky, I will go down to the basic of basics, like I woke up in a clean bed. I've had a hot coffee. My child smiled at me. And actually that gratitude, I think when you're really tuned into gratitude, what comes from it is like amazing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
And I'm
definitely.
not a manifester, I'm not a tarot reader. I understand bits of the spiritual world, and I
Yeah,
think there's a lot to be said for it actually. And I think if we can pull on those things where you are showing the universe through your hard work, but also just through your daily practices that you're grateful, then
yeah,
actually that abundance, I feel like it should come back. Yeah. So there is
yeah, yeah, yeah,
something about that spiritual cyclical thing where good action, being kind, talking
yeah,
about your problems, showing gratitude for what's good is kind of a
yeah.
great recipe for being a nice human.
Yes, love that, love that. And can I ask, because you're a comedian, you're a writer, you're a performer, you're an actor. Like, does it help? I've had people say before that like writing comedy is a sort of therapy, like that in itself. Do you find that, writing and creating in that sense is that helpful for, just your mind in general? Or is that, how do you view your creative outletting?
I think there is something lovely, lovely question, by the way, Liv. Beautiful. I think there is something to be said for crafting an idea, putting it in front of a forum of people, and them going, I feel that.
Yeah.
So even if it's a joke about my overhang, and we've got 10 women in the audience who've had C-sections, and they similarly have a overhang, and I've reached out to them and they feel seen, then yeah, there is something about that that's really, really cool. I think there is something about crafting an idea and honing it and making it better, and to the point where it's like a bankable piece of something that is amazing. But God, the amount of mess you have to go through, and to get to that, not everyone will write a joke and take it out and it will bang and they will be like, that's it, that's done. Quite often, the process for me is like, I write something, I take it out, two people go, huh, and one person goes, and I go, oh, I can't do that again. And then I might go home and like change a few words, rewrite everything out, every word for word, and then take it out and tweak something. And then it might be like 30 gigs or sometimes before you've kind of got something you think can work, or you have to go, come on, that's not working. Be turf, get through the material in a way, like turf it out. If it's shit, it needs to go. And actually, I feel like I just did this Soho Theatre course, and it's really instigated like a big, big energy drive in terms of writing. And I've just got to like be brutal, actually, and say, if something isn't working, just move on, next, write a better joke. And the only thing with this kind of thing, like any creative thing, is like there's no one leaning over me going, like a teacher saying, that wasn't good, was
it's
it?
really self-driven, isn't it? You've got to be the driving force behind it.
So you've also
That's
got to
hard.
be quite truthful to yourself and say, that wasn't good. You've got to make it better. Yeah.
Nice. That's good. That's good. All right, a bit of a personal one, and you can respond to this in any, whichever way you want to take it. But what is, would you say, in your life so far, the biggest mess that you have got yourself into to date? And that can be, it could be something very serious that happened. It could be something totally ridiculous. It could be, have you been arrested? Have you cheated on someone? Did you, what's the biggest, take it, or was there a mental health episode or what's the biggest mess that you feel you have encountered in your life so far
Okay.
that you're willing to share in this forum?
I think it's really important to share, because actually, hopefully by sharing, it will maybe resonate with someone or assist someone. So, okay. Number one, I've got two. No,
I love that. Great. Give me all of them.
So number one is at university. I went to South Bank University and Central School of Speech and Drama. And every year at university, I took out the full student loan, a fresh bank account, drained the overdraft, got a fresh credit card, maxed it. Every single year I did that with a fresh bank.
Wow. Oh my gosh, financial mess. Stressful. So
Store
stressful.
cards, mobile phones. I mean, I got myself into a real financial mess. I was living in a flat in Tulse Hill after I graduated, and I felt ever so alone. London can be quite lonely sometimes. It really can. And this financial concern, in addition to my student loan, I was getting letters and letters and letters and letters and letters and CCJs, and it was all getting very scary. And I just had to kind of go, right. I remember phoning my daddy, just like saying, I just need to be saved. I just don't know what the hell to do. This is so, just felt so alone, so sad. I'd been very foolish, of course, but also, why was all this money available to me? And I just would, it was really bad. So I did an IVA, which meant it's like a lesser form of a bankruptcy. And so you get given like a debit card, which basically doesn't let you do anything. And I just had to pay my debts back. So I just had, that took like 5 years. And then this company called PayPlan just handled all my debts, and I just had to kind of sort it out.
That's amazing. Also, it's really good to hear that, because I think often when we get ourselves in a mess in all any realm, you can get yourself very stressed, you can panic, and it feels as if there is no way out, or there is no hope, and it starts to feel really overwhelming, and like a really and you think, fuck, I've got myself in a proper mess here, and you don't think that there is a solution, when actually there's always. I went to see Moana 2, the new Moana, the other day, and there's one message in it that's so poignant, that's really relevant, where she is basically told through song, of course, because it's Disney, that there is always a way out, and you might need to get lost to find it, but there is always, or maybe it's there's always another way. There's just always there's always a solution, and that's what we have to think. And that's what you're saying. You got yourself completely bankrupt, well, almost bankrupt, but you found a way out.
And my daddy scooped me up, and I moved back to Guildford, and I got a rental, and I did this payment plan, and actually it was all really positive. I was able to kind of have him nearby, and my siblings and friends, and I paid back my debt. I just did what I had to do. I just kind of just trucked on. I worked my arse off. I worked for an antique newspaper and an arts newspaper, and I just paid the debts hard off. So that was that. And actually, I do think we do need to talk about money more, especially women. I think there's a real kind of taboo thing about money. And I just think, why are we being like this? We could help each other so much
Yeah,
by just being honest about, I've got debt. I'm not going to
yeah,
go to that dinner. I'm sorry, I can't come to let's start being like, actually, I can't afford to.
yeah,
I'm starting to normalize.
yeah,
There are peaks and troughs in money.
yeah.
And, but actually, I don't have a lot of money at the moment,
Hmm.
particularly. So it's
Yeah, yeah,
quite
yeah,
liberating when you start saying, I can't afford that. And then your friend
yeah,
goes, well, actually, me neither.
yeah.
Well,
It's also,
let's
we
do a
live in this
savings pot for a
capitalist.
bigger trip,
Yeah.
or, yeah, sorry.
Yeah, no, no, no. I was going to say, because we just live in this awful, increasingly pressured capitalist culture, which is often just exposing you to more and more advertising that there is endless money open to you, that you can just get credit, 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 and you can get this, and you can get an interest free here, and you can pay by Klarna, and you can do X, Y, and Z, which is actually, it's so unhealthy, because no wonder, you can. And also, I think being open just about learning more, or saying if you don't understand, there is a lot of financial stuff that I do not understand, and I've had to recently educate myself on, now being single, come out of a marriage, and have had to do mortgages and all sorts of stuff on my own. And just knowing, like, I had to admit there was a fair amount that I don't know, like, and I don't want to get in a total financial mess, but being a bit more open, like, yeah, I do need to speak to somebody who knows more about finance than me, because it is quite a taboo subject to sort of, well, people aren't often open as well about how much money they do or don't have, and you can get yourself in a real old pickle.
You can. And actually, how wonderful it is to be really truthful about Dosh and just say,
Yeah,
this month it hasn't been so good for me.
yeah,
Next month I will be able to make a plan with you or whatever. Anyway,
yeah,
so
yeah,
that was
yeah.
mess number one. Mess
Okay.
number two is a little more. So in my gap year,
Yeah.
I after I had done my A levels, I got a job with a project finance bank. And at the time, I was going out in the West End, probably about 5 nights a week. I just had a circle of friends, and we were going out all the time. And I met this guy, and he introduced me to a fake movie director.
Okay. A fake one. That's not good.
And so he said he's looking for someone to work with him. And so I ended up kind of, over the period of about 2 weeks, basically worked with this guy who had a property rental in Green Park, and he was a movie director, and he'd come from Europe, and he was going to make a big movie with Anthony Hopkins. And so I had hooked him up with incredible casting directors. I got him business cards printed. And then it was like it started getting a bit weird. There was just something about the whole experience was a bit weird, Liv, and I couldn't quite. It was like one day we went for this lunch at this Mayfair restaurant, and at the end of he went, "You're going to have to pay."
Oh
I don't
no.
have any money. I was like literally 19. I was like, well, I don't have any
Yeah.
money. Anyway, so I started like getting funny sort of feelings. We were having castings in the day. Anyway, I then was like, we haven't paid me this week. So I went to Guildfest. And when I came back on the following Monday, I was in a lift with 8 CID.
Oh my God.
And he was wanted by Interpol, this man. He
What?
had um he had been phoning the people that we had been auditioning in the day, and he had been
No.
getting them there at night, and he had
No.
been casting couch raping girls. And
Oh
so
no.
he was arrested that day,
Oh
and
my God.
in front of me, and I said to the police, "Oh, I've only been here like 2 weeks, but I'll give you any sort of assistance that you need in this trial."
Yeah.
Um, but basically, what then happened is he got released on bail, and he phoned me and he asked me to come up to London. And my dad at the time said, "Kelly, if you go up there, you know,
Jesus,
I
you
could
put
have,
yourself in danger.
yeah, it could have
Yeah.
been very, very serious because he's a very dangerous man." And
Wow.
he never perpetrated, anything on me. But if I had gone up that day, I probably wouldn't be talking to you now. Anyway,
Yeah.
so that followed then a year in the run up to the trial, which was going to be at the Old Bailey. I gave a 16-page statement,
Wow, my love, that's serious.
and I had to. I was intimidated throughout the trial by the contacts that had introduced me to him, and they'd like recorded a lot of conversations on the phone, so they used a lot of that in the trial. And so the trial was at Snaresbrook Crown Court. I was on the stand for 2.5 hours, and the day before I was just doing my summer job, being a chef at the Sainsbury's cafe.
Yeah.
And then the day going up to Snaresbrook with my dad in the court, two and a half
That is
hours
crazy. That also, but that's scary because it also just shows how that was not self-inflicted mess, like that was just completely out of your control.
Awful.
And just again, just points to, oh,
He
that's
got
horrible. I'm
11
sorry that you had
years.
to go through that. Thank
he
God.
he
Good.
got 11 years, and
That's not
um
enough. That is not enough. Jesus. But
and I hope
still.
he was deported. But I have to say, at that age,
Yeah.
I can't believe I got myself into that kind of pickle. And actually, that was a mess. Like, if I think about life mess, I'm like,
Yeah.
Jesus, like,
Yeah.
how?
Did you feel like did that have long-term repercussions on you? Is that something that you really had
I'm
to work
very fit.
through? Like,
I am quite a like, at night the doors always have to be like triple lock checked.
yeah.
For a long time, because I was intimidated in the trial, I just got really kind of sort of scared. I was always
Wow.
looking over my shoulder. Um,
Mm.
it just was a bit of a scary time. But
Yeah, of
actually, I look
course.
back and I just think, God, that's another thing in life. Like, I did do the right thing,
Yeah,
and
of course.
I've never spoken about it kind of on a public forum. But I think now, because it's been
Yeah,
many
thank
years, I
you. Like,
can.
thank you for sharing. That's just, I hope that you had all the right support through that as well. Like if you're being intimidated, did you get support from?
The police were really amazing, and I have to say the police were amazing, but I don't think I at that time I had to give all my evidence in front of him. And when I came into the courtroom, he like laughed, and it's just a power move. And I just think ultimately I think things have changed a lot more for witnesses now, in terms of, like, you can have you don't have to go to the courtroom. You can have a shade or something. You
Oh
can have
yeah, yeah, yeah,
a
yeah. Like a
barrier, so you don't
yeah,
have to be seen, all these
yes,
things. Anyway,
yeah.
I think the moral of the story is also, if your gut doesn't feel quite right, and I knew something was quite off, then generally your gut does say, your nervous system does speak to you.
Go with your instinct and remove yourself from the situation if you can. That is the thing. Sometimes, again, just comes back to the chaotic nature of life and the universe. Is some things we can control. Often there are things that are completely out of your control, and you didn't have a lot of visibility as to what was going on there. And sometimes you have to trust, and sometimes that trust fails you. And yeah, I hear you though. If you get a gut feeling about something, try and act on it.
But I think also I'm raising girls. So I'm going to be like, because of these experiences that happened, and I'm just going to be all over who they're talking to, what they're doing, how they're going out in a really kind of gentle, slightly helicopter parenting way. But oh my God, there are people out there who are not great. And actually, that is, we are the navigators with these little people on. We're talking a lot, with my 8-year-old. I'm drip feeding, like it's like little seeds being sown of like, if you feel comfortable, and also just like drip feeding conversations really around consent.
That's it. We have to think about we are the people who are going to educate our young on how to keep themselves from getting in as little mess as possible in the future. And it's really hard because what do you tell them? What's the appropriate age to tell them different bits of information? How do you also not instill, sorry, fear in them? You don't want them walking around with total anxious brains from age 6, 7, but I hear you. I think I love that idea of dropping little seeds of info to them and just trying to bring them a bit of awareness without freaking them out totally. And
That word, I didn't know what that word was until I was 30.
if you don't learn about consent, you can get yourself in a royal mess. So it's very relevant, actually. I think that's hugely important to think about. Yeah, consent and how we ensure that we know and our children know how to say no.
How to say no. And
Mm.
also, with consent, what is pleasure? Anyway, I didn't understand that actually consent and pleasure are very much intertwined. And actually, as a teenager, how many situations which probably were quite messy and not pleasurable, and maybe they weren't laced with consent. How many of those situations which I probably could have avoided if I'd had a real understanding of what consent and how important my personal pleasure is amongst it.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's really, yeah, it's an important one. It's a good one. Thank you.
Oh,
Thank you for sharing that story.
loves.
Is there a story of any celebrity or figure in the press who's got themselves in a right old pickle that springs to mind? Like, or who do you think, or anyone I'm thinking about who I should get on the podcast in the future, and this is massive, and I need to get celebs on that have got themselves in or out of a right mess.
I
Anyone you
mean,
can think
Katie
of?
Price. I mean, fuck me, she's a
Katie
walking.
Price, yes.
I mean, I love, actually, I listened to her podcast interview with Louis Theroux and how honest she was and how vulnerable she was. But, like, she's been caught in a car turned upside down, off to get drugs at 7 a.m. She's gone bankrupt. She's had so many messes, so many dangerous, awful love interests. She springs to mind because that's fresh from Louis Theroux's podcast. And I just think she's still a mother. She's still an ambassador for Great Britain. Anyway, she's got a lot of mess.
Yeah. And worked a lot. Exactly. And I do really respect there are some people of fame. I don't want to just say celebrities, but some people that you have to just give all due respect to. And it is because it is good to just go, thank you for being open and honest and declaring the scenarios that you've got yourself. Davina McCall is someone I think is amazing. Like, I just look at some of the scenarios that she's been in and the way she's so open about her addictions. And I've been listening to her new podcast, Begin Again, recently. Like, I think Davina McCall's a bit of a legend. Yeah, there's a few out there. We'll track them
Davina,
down.
Davina is someone that I physically am working towards to be her.
Nice.
I just think she's an icon.
She
And then
is an icon.
I think
I saw her at
people.
Pikes in Ibiza this summer and
Oh,
she was dressed as an icon. She came to a party we were at and I was like, yeah, you're a superstar.
yeah, love her. I also think like anyone who's been cancelled, that like anyone. Um, so anyone who's been cancelled, Greg Wallace, Phil Schofield, like all these people, because obviously that is a mess. When you get to that point where all your revenue streams, you're being mother of daughters, where you're being dropped by your agent, and you know, we can't talk to her, or we can't have her for an ambassador of our brand. You know, actually, I would love those conversations, because I just think we're very critical. We're very finite now as a society. And actually, we all get in messes. So, you know, actually, we all should be everyone should be given a second chance, unless you are a nonce or a murderer.
They don't get another chance,
No,
unfortunately. Agreed.
that's it.
There's some messes that are a step too far, and taking people's lives or abusing children is a step too far. That's a
Yeah,
mess.
so I
That's a
think
mess that you don't get to talk about on the podcast. Sorry, guys.
if you've made a couple of fuck ups
Mm.
and you know you've got it wrong and
Yeah.
you've made a few bum decisions, wow,
Yeah.
do you know what? So what?
We all have.
Yeah.
We all have. That's why I'm sitting here making a podcast around this topic, because everybody is fucked up and people don't talk about it often or openly enough sometimes. So yeah, let's help each other get through the bloody mayhem.
That's brilliant.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, I've got a final question for you.
Woo! I think it's really good
woo!
you're doing this podcast, by the way, because
Thanks.
you're opening up. You're enabling people to be super vulnerable, but actually, I know that there will be a massive audience, Liv, just going, "Oh God, me too." Oh, how do I get better organized with my finances, or how do I get better organized with like the miscellaneous of life?
Yeah, the miscellaneous in your head, in your house. Yeah,
it's good.
All of that. Okay, my final question is, because I love a tune. I love a bit of music. I'll have to work out whether I'm able to play any of these tunes on the podcast, because I think sometimes you can't, because you get stung for publishing or you have to get clearances or whatever. But I've started making a mess podcast. The songs to me throughout my life that you hear them and you go, that's either been a song through a really messy period that got me through, or it just epitomizes a sense of mess or mess in your mind, or like, you know, a bit of madness. So I'm going to ask you, firstly, I'm going to play a clip of one of my songs and you have to guess what it is. Just the beginning. This is one of my mess songs. And then I'm going to ask you for yours. So I will just play the start of mine. I think you should be able to guess it quite easily. Here we go. Can you hear that?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Tune.
Where did it take you?
So that's a messy tune. Well, it's one that just represented a time period where I was just going through a hectic time, and it made me think, oh my God, I was in a mess. How about you? Got one? Or one that got you through a mess? It could be a ballad of hope.
Michael Jackson's "You Are Not Alone" after my mum died. I just think, God, that was so messy that time. And actually that tune just like, it's such a sad song. And I was just like, I was really into it. And then I think also after my first love broke up, Radiohead, Creep, I just couldn't really listen to it. There's certain songs that just kind of stick with you, but then I sort of also probably look like, yeah.
Amazing. They are two really good tunes. I've got in my mess playlist, I have Radiohead, but Paranoid Android. That's a mess for me.
Yeah, I love this idea of the mess playlist. It's so clever.
Oh, yeah. I'll tell you a couple more. There's Paranoid Android in there. There's, an obvious one for me. Where Is My Mind, Pixies? That's a mess. Psycho Killer, Talking Heads. Anyway.
These are good.
But yes, I love that. So Michael Jackson, You're Not Alone, and Radiohead, Creep. Thank you. They will be added to the playlist.
Oh, brilliant.
As Kelly Ford, the inaugural guest, the fabulous and wonderful. I love you.
Oh,
thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Thank you for having me. And I wish you the very best with it. You're a wonderful person. And you deserve every greatness.
Yeah, as do you. Thank you, my messy friend.
Thanks.
I am so grateful to you for tuning in and allowing some more mess to be uncovered with me. The Mess We're In is edited by David Strutt, music by Michelle Cade, who you can find on Spotify as Mind Like Water, and I am Liv Nunn, If you enjoyed this episode, it would make such a difference if you can hit follow or subscribe and share in any way. It really helps get this conversation flowing in a less messy manner. If you want to know how to connect with me, all the details are in the show notes. I'll be back very soon to spotlight and honour more of our messy selves. Be open, be kind, be messy.